Today on Parts Hold, we are going to talk about parts departments and what are they really selling? Are you just putting part numbers onto a ticket and then giving that to the customer? Or is there something a little bit deeper? We're also going to talk about Cliff's run-in with death on a cruise ship and lots more. I'm Christian Lafferty. This is Cliff Honeycutt. And you have gotten yourself into Parts Hold.
Here to fill the order. Something's happened to me just recently. Well, within the last 48 hours. And it's really weird.
You went deaf.
No, my face is breaking out. Like I'm getting all these bumps on the inside of my face. I know.
Oh, it's like being a teenager again.
Yeah, but I'm 47 years old. Like I shouldn't be going through like having acne. But it's not really acne. But my face is breaking out.
Is it poison ivy? I can't wait.
No. It's from sunscreen.
Sunscreen? Oh, I know why you had to have sunscreen. Why don't you share it with the group?
Just got back from our little cruise.
So you went on a cruise purposely on one of these death traps that have been in the news oftentimes. And also something very interesting about the actual ship you're on, right?
The funniest thing ever. And if we were honest with ourselves, you know and I know it could only happen to me.
Yeah, agreed.
But my good friend of mine that was on the cruise ship described it as we were on the Motel 6 of the Carnival cruise fleet.
So you got this beautiful like fleet of fancy ships with like pools and water slides and 50 decks and, you know, everything you'd ever want on a cruise ship. And you got the Motel 6 version?
Yeah, and no offense to anyone who loves the Motel 6, and they have redone a lot of those, and they're getting nicer. But when you think of hotels and really, really good hotels, they're not first on the list of really nice hotels. But it really didn't stand out to me until we were in our first port of call, which was Nassau, Bahamas.
Okay.
And there's 4 other cruise ships there. And they look super majestic, and they're all white and beautiful blue, bottom that's freshly painted. The name really stands out. On the Carnival ships, anyway, you have the giant whale tail coming off the top, the stack, and Norwegians there, and they're so majestic. And
your ship didn't have a whale tail?
I don't know if you saw in the news a while back, but there was a ship that caught on fire, and it was all over social media, and the video was showing the fire shooting out the top of the stack.
I mean, kudos to that ship for not missing a beat, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Like whale tail or not, we're going on this cruise.
I felt like you and I have been in the business long enough to know that loaners were always not the nicest of vehicles. Like now, when you go to a dealership and you get a loaner, you get a brand new car.
Yeah.
But it's not always been that way.
No, not at all.
And so I felt like they brought around the loaner cruise ship.
From The Mask, in case anybody wanted to know that reference. That's so great. Hey, I got something I observed the other day. I was at a coffee shop, and this Roman guy walks in, and he held up 2 fingers and got 5 coffees.
How about 2 fingers and got 5 coffees?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I've been waiting for this moment for years because I knew there was no way you would get this joke. Okay, where's the guy from?
Rome?
Yep. And then he held up 2 fingers. What's the Roman numeral for 5?
Oh, the B, yeah. Dang it. I didn't catch that.
I love doing these shows with you. Yeah. No, I didn't expect more from you. So you're on, sorry, I digress. So you go to this cruise ship, which is the Motel 6 of cruise ships, and you're in the Bahamas, so kind of cool, right? Clear waters. Was it ridiculously warm?
Well, you know me, I love it ridiculously warm, so I can't say that it was bad. I love it.
Did anyone boil to death when they got in the water?
No, no.
Okay,
Actually,
so it wasn't ridiculously warm then.
have you ever gone to the Bahamas?
No. I've been to Jamaica, is about as close as I think I've gotten.
The water in the Bahamas is insanely salty.
And super clear too, right?
Yeah, I mean, the area they took us snorkeling wasn't the best snorkeling I've done, but there were some other areas that we went to. One being the Turks and Caicos, that the water is ultra clear and way better. But the water in the Bahamas is, I don't know what it makes it so salty or it makes it saltier, but it is. I mean, it's insanely salty. So I'm one of the weirdos in the world that I'd open my eyes in the water.
Oh, that's probably got a really good burn with nice salt water content. My son's like that too. He opens up his eyes the whole time.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just something I've always done, but it did burn more than normal. And it was super, super salty. And the water was a little bit rough where we were snorkeling. In fact, I feel like I'm in decent shape.
You're in decent shape for sure.
Yeah, not only for a gentleman my age, but I think for most people, I'm in decent shape.
I would say just in general. I've seen you on a treadmill, man. You don't do what normal people do on a treadmill.
But I was struggling to swim, and I'm not a super strong swimmer either, but I was struggling to get back to the boat, and I got back to the boat, and the guy asked me if I needed a hand. I was like, I just need a second to catch my breath. If you give me just 2 seconds, but the current was really, really bad. In fact, they made us come back in. But the current was really, really bad. It was a struggle swimming back. Like, I didn't think I was going to make it back.
Well, I'm glad you did. Otherwise, these episodes of Parts Hold would not be very party. So
would you put up like a cardboard cutout of me and just have it like standing and just talk back?
And then I try to do like the ventriloquist thing and just be you. Yeah. I just wouldn't be as smart. So that's great. Well, welcome back. I'm glad that the rest of the boat didn't burn down. So it's just a missing whale tail. I bet it smelled awesome too. I can only imagine. But yeah, that has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about today. But I think that if I have to pick a name for this episode, it's does your parts department sell parts? So I think that's what we're going to call it. But I've got you shared an amazing list with me where I would venture to say, no, your parts department doesn't sell parts. It sells something else. So maybe you can unpack that for us a little bit, Clifton.
Let's dive in the deep end. Number one, I think you need to prioritize.
Okay, so explain that to me and how it relates to not selling parts.
If you're looking at your department as a whole, there are certain things that you're going to have to figure out what you're prioritizing. And I think if you sat down, it's no different if you're looking at doing something in your life or not doing something in your life. You make a pros and cons list. I think you've got to lay down a task list and start prioritizing things. If you ever want to accomplish selling parts from your parts department, because currently you're not, if you want to, you're going to have to start prioritizing some things and making things a bigger priority. In other words, how quickly can you get the part?
So you're not selling the part, you're selling the time and convenience?
Yes, I'm selling me, and that I'm the guy that you need for your parts because I can get them quicker. I'm super knowledgeable. We have a great relationship. The part really doesn't matter. I think you and I would agree that it's not very often that you go into a parts department and you see buy 2 starters, get 1 free.
Yeah, but I bet there would be a line of people everywhere getting those 2 starters.
That's what I'm saying. You've got to figure out a priority list of what's going to make you their choice for where they want to do business.
Yeah. So if everyone's selling the same part, then what are you selling? Yes. Right. So it's that convenience. It's the availability. It's probably like friendliness, just in answering the phone, probably.
Well, we've talked about it before. There's a lot of stores that don't want to educate a customer. I'm not talking about fixing a car. I'm talking about educating a customer of what, if they're calling and getting a part, a water pump, Don't I need to educate them and tell them that they need the gasket? Don't I need to educate them and tell them that they need other things? I mean, remember some of the old Chrysler stuff that we worked on. There were certain O-rings and stuff that you had to get if you were doing a water pump job.
Oh yeah, like the manual would call for a requirement of replacing those O-rings or anything, and reusing them is just a recipe for disaster, anyways.
Yeah. So I think you're prioritizing what's going to set you apart from everybody else that has the same brand that you do, that's approaching them online. In a world in which they can go online and get anything, why would they come to you?
Yeah, so maybe that's a really good thing is that that understanding that you're not competing just against other dealerships, but you're competing against Amazon. Most importantly, I think it's the competing against Amazon. And what would make someone spend, no matter what we do as a parts department, we're not going to be cheaper than Amazon for the most case, right? But we certainly can be better. The part quality can be better, all that stuff. We have to come up with some sort of a differentiator because I think that in a lot of cases with parts departments, Amazon's a pretty viable opponent.
Yeah, you've heard it said before, you can find everything on Amazon.
Yeah. So I think that the only thing we have to go off of is the personal connection with the customer.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, and you're in your knowledge too, because Amazon's not telling them that they need to get the gasket.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see the thing at the bottom that says these items are commonly sold together, but that's not a parts advisor.
Yeah,
it's good. What else you got on that list?
So on that list, a commitment to that path. I think there has to be a commitment and laying out the things. I love that. One of the things that Chris always says is, if everything's important, then nothing's important. And so if you try to do this broad thing of making everything that priority, there's not a commitment to the path. So I think you make your priority list and then commit to that path of how to get there and how to start selling parts in your parts department, and how to become number one.
I like that. That's good. What is it? If everything's important, then nothing's important? Essentially saying that nothing's more important than anything else, kind of. They got to pay attention to everything. Okay. I like it. Good translation. Thank you. So
strategizing would be number 3. I think, a lot of times we do a thing where we ready, aim, fire.
I think you meant to say ready, fire, aim there, because ready, aim, fire is the order it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Ready, fire, aim. That's exactly right. But I think sometimes we don't sit down and strategize how we're going to come up with our path and our plan, and we just shoot from the hip and hope that it works, and then we wonder why it didn't work. But we didn't write anything down. We didn't make a plan. We didn't stick to that plan. We didn't strategize of how to get to where the goal that we're trying to get to. We just fired off recklessly. And so I think if we sit down and make a real plan and figure out how we're going to get there and the pathway to where we're going to get there.
So what would you call that? A sales plan?
I just think it's a roadmap. It's a roadmap to success. It's a pathway. When I wrote this down, I really thought about some of the managers out there, some of the parts managers out there would do well to grab some managers from some other departments and sit down with them and ask them questions.
Oh, but what would you ask a sales manager if you were a parts manager?
Well, I would ask them, what are customers coming in and saying about Carvana and CarMax and shopping online? Like, I want to know that information so that I can set a plan up for success in my parts department in the same pathway. Because most of the time a parts manager is looking things more analytical than from a selling aspect. And I want to get a salesman's opinion. I want to get someone outside the department's opinion.
Well, something that I think is very parallel between parts and sales, the thing that makes someone buy something at the end of the day, whether it's online or in person, I think it's the same whether you're selling a car or a water pump, is how easy is it? I actually think that the reason why people buy stuff from Amazon is not the price necessarily, but it's because they can click it and have it there tonight.
The convenience of it.
Convenience, and exactly. And how easy is it to buy that thing? It's great that it's convenient after the fact, but clicking buy is not too difficult either. So as a parts department, how can we make that easy?
Yeah. If I were honest, there's a business that I use online that I've bought parts from multiple times. And the reason I use them is just what you just said. It is absolutely convenient.
Right.
Because I can call them and or go online to their online store, get the part that I want, get it to my house in less time frame than I can get it from the local dealership. So that's the thing that you're looking for, is what sets you apart. And it's by accident that I stumbled across this company.
Yep. My client relations department that I head up here, they're telling me this all the time, which then kind of relates to the part sale thing. We have to find ways to reduce friction, is what they call it.
Reduce friction. I like that.
I do too. But it relates to part sales. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
All right. What's next?
I want to put down here that you got to see what's possible. Because most of the time we don't sell parts because we're not looking at what's possible. Think of the dealerships that you've gone in the past or even recently, and how many of them have boutiques or branded material?
Well, I think whether or not they have them is one question, but whether or not they have one that's active and has good effort into it is a very different thing. It's more like 1 in 10. But like almost every BMW store I go in has some sort of a boutique, but whether or not it's an afterthought it's very apparent to me.
Yeah, and you go into some of them and the materials are, they're dirty because they've been sitting out there so long.
Yeah,
they're dusty.
Because it's a T-shirt from 1988.
Yeah, the white T-shirt's now cream colored. It's just
right.
Whether it's merchandise and branded material, or whether it's a full car wrap, or whether it's wheels and tires, or whatever the case is, that there's a possibility for whatever brand that you're currently at. There's a pathway to get you there, and to see what's not there is a huge opportunity.
Oh, I agree. That's great. Good stuff. All right, keep going.
All right. Next thing is finding a niche area. We've talked about 1,000 times that there's different ways to grow it, but you've got to figure out, is it wholesale? Is it an online store? Another one that I ran into just recently that a store started doing was they were buying up aged inventory or obsolete inventories and selling them online.
Mm-hmm.
And he's pretty successful at it right now. But he's buying it for pennies on a dollar and then turning around and making a profit on it.
Yeah, and you don't even have to, when you buy it pennies on the dollar, you don't even have to sell like the whole pallet, right? You have to sell a few parts off the pallet and then it pays. That's super.
Yeah, that's what he said he's looking for. Is he's looking for the entire list of inventories from his brand, and then he deciphers out what he can make money, and he makes an offer on the entire thing.
Yeah, so if there's 30 parts on a pallet, maybe he's looking for 6.
Yeah, and those he can sell and make a profit off those 6, and the rest of the stuff doesn't matter because he's made his money up.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then the last thing is, I think it's something that we, as parts managers, have to really, really practice at. And the more we practice at it, the better we'll get at it. We're going to have to really get good at marketing ourselves.
Kind of one of the bigger punchlines to this whole conversation is that you're not necessarily selling parts, you're selling yourself a little bit. That's okay. Right. Now I like where you're headed. It's good.
Yeah. And marketing yourself in that sense is the same thing too.
Parts managers have had no training on marketing.
0. Most of them are trying to flounder themselves around, but I do think you've got to get good practice at it and start trying things.
Yeah, as a parts department, I would be using almost everything for outreach, more like a PR type thing. Just I'm in your neighborhood and would love the opportunity to work with you, as opposed to offering like some sort of a parts discount or something like that. It'd be way more outreach and just kind of, like you had said earlier, educating the customer, on the fact that we exist and what we can do. Because a lot of times they don't know what we can do.
They have no idea we're there. But if we can market ourselves, even signage in the store. I mean, I'm talking about as simple as signage in the store. And somebody just told me this recently, which I thought was genius. And it was a younger guy. And he said, what if you could build a catalog for your customer and it had a QR code and you had that in the front showroom?
Oh, and they could just zap it and buy the part?
And they could just get on there. And his point was, most of the younger generation wants to be able to do that.
Well, that's reducing friction.
Oh, yep. There you go. on the cruise ship, the menu is no longer a menu that's sit down in front of you. You scan the QR code with your phone, and it's on your phone, and it's updated daily, so that you know going in what the menu is available. So the QR code thing, when he said that, I was like, man, that's genius. Having a QR code out there for the accessories that are available, or just a parts catalog in general, to available to your customers.
What about a QR code that could link to a chat with a counter person?
Oh, even better. So the company I use that bought automotive stuff has a chat feature on there. That's really super helpful.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's great.
I'd love it. So you're not selling parts, you're selling yourself, right?
Yes. And at the end of the day, I'm selling me.
I think you should recap it one more time for those listening at home.
All right. Number one, we need to prioritize, make a task list, put it out there. Number two, we need a commitment to a path. Number three, we need to strategize. Number four, we need to see what is not there and what's open and available. Number five is to find a niche market. And number six is to get really, really good at marketing.
That's great. Why do hamburgers go to the gym?
Why? I don't know why hamburgers go
to get better buns.
Yes. Yes. I love it.
That's a good little list for today. Just understanding, the business that you're in, you're not necessarily just selling those part numbers on the shelves. There's a lot more that goes into that. And, getting creative and looking at what other opportunities you have is a really excellent way to prove that. So we'll look forward to seeing you next time on Parts Hold.
Here to fill the order.